So we had an absolutely killer training session this weekend, and I wanted to share a little bit with you guys. If this is something you guys would be interested in seeing more of, I absolutely would love to continue doing this, but it will be through a membership and subscription basis. So we started the day by setting up a stage that had a handful of different start positions and a handful of different scenarios. I did move some targets around throughout this, but I wanted to keep this video centered around sort of the same stage setup. As you see here, we were able to take 2+ whole seconds off of our time, especially with pistol going from 14 plus to sub 12, even with a makeup shot there. But how did we do it is the thing that I want to talk to you guys about. By using stochastic, acoustics, perturbations, and differential learning via data collection. So as you see here, this is me collecting data using my shooter global timer. Everything I do is recorded. I do not ever just run a run and paste it up and move on to the next one. I do not redo runs. If I miss, I make it up and I fix it, because that is actively creating that motor solution in your mind to do it while in the game. So as you saw there, one thing that I had a problem of before was staying slow when I start slow. So intentionally making sure I not only, like here, leave on that second shot and drive my eyes, which as you see is the end result here, ends up picking up a lot of time, but it is with overall mental intention and by using physical cues. So obviously I'm getting a lot faster than I was when this first started. And I did only run this direction this way about 3 or 4 times each max. I did not want to get too many repetitions there. And I ended up changing the stage around a lot. But this created a whole lot of new motor solutions for my mind by using physical perturbations. Believe it or not, I had some pebbles in my shoe I intentionally put in there. And then I was using intentional physical cues to tell myself that one thing that I'm going to focus on in that next run. But that perturbation is an outside influence that ends up changing the essential versus non-essential noise that goes on in your mind while you are doing this. But all in all, we absolutely slayed it today. We picked up a lot of time, picked up a lot of confidence. Get yourselves out there and train, and let me know what you think about this and what more you'd like to see. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. This is my pistol run on top, PCC on bottom. This was at the end of the day, after the successes of the particular nuances that I did train to achieve this decreased time. I was able to take off, like I said, over 2 seconds, which was absolutely phenomenal and rendered this training session an absolute success. But let's look at where that time was truly gained. As a start, my initial transition from the start steel to the no-shoot target was around 0.45. And I ended up maintaining that slower controlled speed into the open target in the beginning with around a 0.28, 0.3 split on the open. So let's see what that looks like here at the end of the day. All right, so that was already phenomenally better. Obviously, the PCC is going to come off a hair faster because it is off low ready. But if we are looking at our transitions from steel to no-shoot target, the PCC was 0.49 to a 0.29 split. The pistol was 0.45 to a 0.31 split. So very consistent with a 0.32 transition and 0.3 transition on PCC to the open target, with 0.18 and 0.17 splits on the open, with all 25 points secured in that first array. So at this time, I have already saved almost just shy of a half a second just on the first position alone. Now moving into the middle position here, you're going to notice that I catch it with the pistol a little bit just because of port difficulty when you are pushing a full-size rifle. All right, let's back that up a hair. So going into that entry, you notice I end up coming in at about 0.15 second difference, so I made up a little bit of time with the pistol. And then being very deliberate on this steel with a 0.7 and 0.7 transition to the very tight no-shoot target directly in front of me. Now, in this front array, initially I was about 0.45, 0.55 transitions, around 0.35 splits on the targets, and I was losing at least a second plus in this array alone, although it is about 3 arrays in one big position. So it was blending the arrays and finding a way to snap my eyes and trust my dot and trust my shot. So at that point, I started accumulating max points in this position, but by just focusing on the intention of leaving on that second trigger pull or first on steel and shooting when my dot tells me I can. So there's the transition off the steel to the no shoot. There's a steel in the middle, hard cover, and then a steel that I'm leaving on. Now, being very intentional about driving my vision and driving my gun there and not rushing it, but only shooting when I'm allowed me to pick up time on every single target in these arrays. Now, moving into this final position, this is one that you saw that we worked earlier by doing designated target on that mini popper down on the bottom right. So we came in here and we worked on tracking that tuxedo target very well. We did about 5 reps of just running in on that target just to make sure we created that mental stimulus of what looked okay to pull the trigger at to stay out of the black. At area 5, I had 3 tuxedo targets and I took 4 shots on across the entire match. So 6 shots that were supposed to be made and I took 12 overall. That costs a lot of time. So in this back array here, it is very obvious that from that first 14-second array in the beginning to now, I absolutely had a hell of a pep in my vision step. As you watch, especially pistol, we'll back it up again. I come in, entering, that second shot happens before I'm stable. That was 2 alpha. Now I've landed. And I have snapped to that next target, immediately off to the steel, immediately off the steel to the paper, although I did have a makeup shot there. But if you go down to the PCC here, you see how fast that vision still was driven regardless, because the vision and the stimulus of the trigger pull is the same, whether you are using a PCC or a pistol. But obviously here we picked up a whole hit factor and a half on PCC and a hit factor and a quarter on pistol, and that is an absolutely significant difference. When I look at my runs at majors versus the guys who win the overall at the match, that is the difference. It is this 2.5 seconds on average per stage, whether it being a 12, 15 to 18 or 25-ish second stage. It seems to be across the board that I was losing 3-ish, 2.5 seconds on average, and it seems that we are very successfully learning where that is. So let's watch this one more time, and I would just say focus on my transitions, knowing I accumulated all my points here by not over trying and not doing anything faster than I have trained to do it. But again, focusing on those stimulus cues of when I am allowed to do what. So I hope you guys enjoyed this new video. This is the first of these iterations, and it will be being moved to subscription and membership only over time here. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know down low what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see. I am always evolving, always improving as an instructor, a competitor, and a professional in this industry. And I am going to continue to share what I've learned and what I learn with all of you guys to the best of my ability. But, like I said, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And thanks for stopping in. I will see you guys next time.